You open your eyes on Coruscant and the city is still trying to be impressive. 10 years of it. 10 years of the planet city layered over itself in every direction. Traffic streams at every altitude, light at every hour, the specific noise of a civilization that never stops. You have been here long enough that the impressiveness has settled into something more useful, which is familiarity. You know which levels carry which kinds of information. You know which corridors have which kinds of people in them. You know what the specific quality of unusual looks like when it is trying to look usual. 10 years since Tatooine. 10 years since a cargo hold and a Jedi Master who looked at you in the dark and said, "There are no coincidences in the Force. Qui-Gon is alive." This is the central fact of the last decade, the one that everything else is organized around. Qui-Gon alive means you had a teacher. A teacher means you became something specific rather than something improvised. You became the Padawan of a man who sees the living Force the way other people see furniture, as the actual substance of the world, rather than something overlaid on top of it. And 10 years of learning to see what he sees has produced a version of yourself that Anakin would not entirely recognize. The gap between you and your brother is visible now in ways it wasn't on Tatooine. Anakin under Obi-Wan has become a weapon of extraordinary precision and extraordinary instability simultaneously. The power is everything Qui-Gon saw in the bloodwork on a desert planet a decade ago. The instability is everything Qui-Gon saw in the boy's face when he said goodbye to his mother. The two things have grown together for 10 years, in a relationship that Obi-Wan manages with the patient dedication of someone who was handed an enormous responsibility without being fully prepared for its specific nature, and has decided that patience is the only tool that doesn't make the problem worse. You and Qui-Gon have built something different, quieter, more lateral. Where Anakin was trained to be a blade, you were trained to be something that doesn't have a clean metaphor, something that reads situations and currents and the space between what is visible and what is true. Qui-Gon calls it listening to the living Force. You call it paying attention. The distinction between the two things narrows the more you practice either. You see Anakin at the temple and in the council antechambers and at dinners where Obi-Wan brings him with the energy of someone managing a powerful variable and keeping it from destabilizing the surrounding environment. These dinners are the dinners of two brothers who grew up the same and became different things, and the conversation is warm and real and carries underneath it the specific hum of divergence that neither of you addresses directly, because addressing it directly would require a conversation. Neither of you has the vocabulary for yet. You love him completely. You are watching him carefully. These two things have always coexisted in you without contradiction. The assignment that brings Padme Amidala back to Coruscant arrives with the urgency of something that has been planned somewhere outside the Jedi Council's awareness. She is a senator now, Naboo's representative in a republic that is moving toward a war it has not yet admitted it is moving toward, with the specific momentum of things that have been building pressure in closed systems. You are at the landing platform when her ship comes in. The platform is crowded in the way of arrivals that have political weight. People arranging themselves around the arrival in patterns that tell you things about who has what interest in this moment. You stand back from the arrangement and watch it from the margin. The explosion comes before the ramp fully extends. The ship disintegrates in a specific way that tells you what the explosion was designed to do, which is to kill the person most likely to be on the ramp at that moment. The smoke and the debris and the screaming crowd, and underneath all of that, a pattern of fragments across the platform that has information in it. If you move toward it rather than away from it, you move toward it. The fragment you find is the size of your thumbnail. It is part of a droid chassis, and it carries on its surface a treatment that should not be there, a specific coating applied in the upper maintenance docks of the highest levels of Coruscant, the levels that service the Senate District's infrastructure directly. You hold it in your palm and think about what it means. This droid did not come from a market or an anonymous supply chain in the lower city. It came from somewhere with access to the infrastructure that maintains the planet's highest levels. Not a hired assassin with a grudge and a budget. Someone with institutional reach. You bring this to Qui-Gon that evening. He listens without interrupting. When you finish, he says, "You're certain about the coding." You say, "I've seen it twice. Once in a salvage analysis 3 years ago, and once in a technical brief about Senate District maintenance systems. It's specific and it's not accidental." He says, "I'll make sure Obi-Wan has it, through my channels." He needs to trust the information before he acts on it, which means it needs to arrive with context he already trusts. You say, "Understood." He says, "Good work." He says it the way he says everything that matters to him, briefly and without decoration. And in 10 years, you have learned that brevity from Qui-Gon carries more weight than extended praise from most people. The second attempt happens the following night. You feel it before you see it, in the specific disturbance in the Force that precedes violence when the violence is organized rather than spontaneous. Organized violence has a preparation phase that leaves traces in the field if you know how to read them. You are already moving when the Kuhun creatures enter the Senator's chambers. Anakin and Obi-Wan manage the chamber. You are outside managing the direction the assassin will run when she runs. Because assassins who fail always run, and the direction they run toward is always the direction of whoever gave them the assignment. Zam Wesell runs into the city's lower levels, and Anakin and Obi-Wan are behind her in speeders, and you are in a third speeder on a parallel route, running the calculation of where this ends. It ends in a trap. You can feel it in the Force ahead of them, the way a prepared position feels different from open space. The electromagnetic interference zone, engineered specifically to degrade Jedi sensor capability at the moment of engagement. Someone planned this part of the pursuit as carefully as they planned the assassination itself. They planned the failure as a continuation of the operation. You cut across the trajectory. The adjustment you make to Zam's speeder is small enough to be invisible. 3 degrees of course correction through a force nudge to her steering system, but 3 degrees at speed over the distance between where she is and where Anakin is going to leave. The speeder converts a near miss into a landing. The hull of her speeder is under his feet when he comes down, instead of the 3 meters of empty air that the original trajectory would have given him. He lands. He looks surprised. Anakin always looks surprised when the calculation resolves in his favor, which tells you something about his relationship with his own capability that you have been thinking about for 10 years without quite resolving. The rest of the chase runs to its conclusion. Zam in the bar, the Kaminoan dart in her neck before she can say who hired her. The dart in your hands afterward with its specific composition, pointing toward a system that should be in the navigational archives and is not. This is not the first time you have noticed the absence. 6 months ago, you were working through navigational records that most Padawans don't access because most Padawans don't find navigational records interesting. You find them interesting because the Force moves through space, and the way it moves produces gravitational patterns, and gravitational patterns appear in navigational data as anomalies that point toward mass that official records claim isn't there. The anomaly you found pointed toward a specific location. The location had been removed from the public archive with the kind of precision that requires both technical access and institutional authority. Something was there, and someone with significant reach decided it shouldn't appear to be there. You gave the coordinates to Qui-Gon. He gave them to Obi-Wan as your observation. Obi-Wan now has the dart, and the dart points toward the same system. And the convergence of 2 independent lines of evidence is the kind of convergence that makes even cautious people move. Obi-Wan goes to Kamino. You file the outcome of this alongside the fragment in your palm and the gap in the archives, and you think about the shape of things. Naboo with Anakin and Padme. You are not there. The assignment keeps you on Coruscant with Qui-Gon, working the political dimensions of whatever is building in the outer systems. But you follow the mission through the Force the way you follow all the things that matter to you at distance, as a texture in your awareness. A quality of presence that is not visual or auditory, but is real in a way that the Force makes real. What you feel from Anakin on Naboo in the first week is warmth, complicated warmth. The specific complicated warmth of someone in proximity to the person they love, more than they have been trained to admit loving, which is to say completely and without the management that the Jedi Code recommends applying to attachment. What you feel in the second week is the low, persistent disturbance of his nightmares. You have been feeling this for longer than the assignment. The nightmares about your mother started months ago and have been building with the specific trajectory of things that are getting worse rather than better. And you have been watching this trajectory with the specific helplessness of someone who knows what is at the end of it and cannot redirect the approach without being present to redirect it. You are not present. You sit with this. You do the work in front of you on Coruscant. You file the helplessness in the place where you file things that need to wait, and you hope the waiting holds. It does not hold. The night the nightmares peak, you are in your quarters at the temple, and you come awake with the sensation of your brother standing at the edge of something that is not grief and not anger, but the third thing that appears when there is enough of both in the same space at the same time. You go to Qui-Gon's quarters. He opens the door before you knock. He has been awake too. He says, "Tatooine." You say yes. He says, "Go." No discussion about the council. No conversation about whether the code recommends this course of action. Qui-Gon's relationship with the code is the relationship of someone who understands the principle behind the rule and applies the principle rather than the rule when the principle and the rule diverge. The principle here is clear. You go. Tatooine from above is exactly what it has always been. Two suns, sand to every horizon. The particular quality of light on a planet that has been absorbing heat since before anything on it was alive. The Lars homestead. Owen Lars, young and uncertain, Cliegg in his chair with the grief of someone who tried everything available and found everything available was not enough. Beru quiet beside him. She had been gone for a month. The Tuskens took her a month ago, and everything that Cliegg could organize to go after her came back smaller than it went. You listen to this with your hands still and your face composed, and inside you, the sound that has been building since you left Coruscant finds its shape. Anakin takes a speeder and goes into the desert before anyone has finished explaining what there is to go toward. You do not try to stop him leaving. You take a different route to the Tusken camp because the direct route is the route Anakin takes, and his arrival will be felt before yours needs to be. The Tusken camp in the deep desert has the specific organization of people who live in a landscape that will kill them if they don't understand its patterns completely. You approach from the windward side, low and patient, and you wait in the dark outside the perimeter. You feel him find her. The Force carries what he feels across the distance with the directness of the bond between twins, and the heat of it is the specific heat of grief that has reached the temperature where it transforms into something that grief was never supposed to become. You feel it build, you feel it crest. You step out of the darkness as he comes through the tent entrance. His face has something in it that does not belong in the face of someone who is still choosing to be a person. He sees you. He says, "Get out of my way, brother." You do not move. You do not draw your lightsaber. There is no version of this where drawing your lightsaber helps anything. You place yourself between him and the camp, and you raise the Force barrier that Qui-Gon spent 3 months teaching you in your second year of training, the technique for containing volatile energies in unstable environments, and you put everything you have into holding it. He hits the barrier, the pain is immediate and specific. Blood vessels in your eyes, pressure building behind your temples, in the specific way that pressure builds when the thing you are holding is too large for the container. But the container has decided it is not going to release it regardless. His grief and his fury and his loss move through the barrier and through you, and you absorb it the way you have learned to absorb things through the Force. By being large enough and still enough and committed enough to the task that the energy disperses before it can ignite anything on the other side. He hits it again. You hold. The third time his strength breaks against you and he falls to his knees, and the sound he makes is a sound that the desert receives without comment. Because the desert receives everything without comment, and the desert has received worse. You go to him. You hold him the way you held him when you were children, in the house on Tatooine, when the nights were cold and the days were long, and the comfort available was only each other. The sand is cold at this hour, and the two suns are still below the horizon, and the stars above you are indifferent. He cries until the crying is complete. Then you bury your mother in the homestead garden with Owen and Beru standing at a respectful distance and Cliegg unable to stand but present. You say what needs to be said. You are quiet when quiet is what the moment needs. Afterward, you make him look at you. You say, "No one will know how close you came tonight." He says, "You'll know." You say, "Yes," and that's where it stays. He looks at you for a long moment with the eyes that are your eyes, in a face that has become different from your face in the ways that 10 years of different choices produce. Then he nods. The nod is small and carries everything. The transmission from Obi-Wan arrives on the ship. Geonosis, Count Dooku, a confederacy of systems organizing against the Republic with the scale and resourcing of something that did not assemble itself spontaneously. Obi-Wan's signal has the specific quality of someone transmitting under time pressure, and the signal cuts in the middle of a sentence because the time ran out. The cutting is the most informative part. The plan when you arrive at Geonosis is quiet infiltration and quiet extraction. The plan has the logic of people who understand that 3 individuals moving silently through hostile terrain are more effective than 3 individuals moving through hostile terrain loudly. And the plan is correct in theory, and encounters the practical problem that the theory did not fully account for, which is the scale of a droid foundry in full production. The scale defeats the approach before the approach can establish itself. The foundry is vast in the way of places built by beings who think in terms of industrial output rather than human dimensions. Conveyor systems that carry components the size of speeders, assembly lines that run on multiple levels simultaneously, the noise of production that masks smaller sounds, and the noise of alert klaxons that do not mask anything. You move through the first section using the technique Qui-Gon calls reading the river, finding the currents in the machinery, and the movement of workers, and following the paths that the activity creates between itself. You disable a section of the conveyor control system through a terminal you reach during a gap in the patrol cycle, which buys 40 seconds of disruption in the assembly pattern and creates a space for forward movement. Then the geometry turns. The geometry of a droid foundry turns against you when the patrol patterns you have been reading reorganize around a new input, which is the alarm that Anakin triggers because Anakin's patience with careful movement has a specific ceiling, and the ceiling was reached somewhere in the second section. You do not blame him. The ceiling is where it is and has always been where it is, and the situation you are now in is the situation of people who are managing what arrived rather than what was planned for. You close with Padme during the engagement, putting yourself between her and the direct fire angles while Anakin carves through the mechanical obstacles with the specific devastating efficiency of someone who stopped calculating options and started executing the one in front of him. This works until it doesn't, and the arithmetic eventually resolves in the direction that arithmetic resolves when the numbers are sufficiently unequal. The capture is not a failure of ability. It is a failure of numbers. The arena is built for an audience, and the audience has arrived to see something certain. 3 execution creatures, 3 prisoners on posts in the center of a space designed to make escape appear impossible. Newt Gunray in the viewing box, with the satisfaction of someone confirming a prediction. Count Dooku beside him, with the composed attention of someone who is watching an event he organized and is monitoring its execution. You assess the arena the way you assess all spaces, methodically and in advance of needing the assessment. The sight lines, the positions of the guards, the angles between the 3 posts and the gates and the viewing box. The creatures themselves, which are dangerous and manageable, and not the primary tactical problem, because creatures can be handled with lightsabers. And the primary tactical problem is the 600 armed guards in the stands. You reach out through the Force across the arena perimeter. You feel them before they appear. 100 Force sensitives moving together through the corridors beneath the arena produces a specific resonance in the Force field that is unmistakable once you know what to listen for. And you have known what to listen for since your 2nd year of training, when Qui-Gon made you practice sensing individual presences in crowded spaces until the skill became automatic. The Jedi are coming. They have been coming for long enough that they are almost here, and the specific quality of their approach is the approach of people who are moving with urgency rather than with stealth. You conserve your energy. The creatures are manageable, and you manage yours with the minimum necessary, keeping your reserves for the moment after, which is going to require more than the moment in the arena does. The lightsabers ignite across the walls, and the arena reorganizes itself from a space of calculated certainty into a space of contested outcome. And Mace Windu at the center of it has the quality of someone who has determined the conclusion before the engagement began and is simply executing toward it. The battle moves outside. The planes of Geonosis receive it without complaint. You fight in the middle sections of the engagement, where the Jedi are maintaining the pressure on the Separatist ground forces. You work in the space between the clone formations, filling the angles that the formations create between themselves, using the precision Qui-Gon spent 10 years developing in you to apply force at the specific points where force is most efficient. Then you feel Dooku ahead, not directly, in the Force as a concentration of dark side energy that is moving with the deliberate calm of someone who knows where they are going and has already accounted for who might try to stop them. You follow the feeling through the corridor into the Foundry's lower section, where the personal hangar is built into the cliff. Obi-Wan is down, not dead, incapacitated by a Form 7 counter that connected before Obi-Wan fully transitioned out of his opening sequence. He is breathing and will recover and is not the immediate problem. Anakin is the immediate problem. Anakin in a duel is extraordinary when his control is intact and dangerous to himself when it isn't. And his control is not intact right now because it was not intact on Tatooine, and nothing since Tatooine has restored it. And Dooku is reading this in his Force signature and using it the way. Experienced duelists use whatever disadvantage is available. You enter with both lightsabers. 2 blades is a choice Qui-Gon encouraged in your 4th year of training, when he watched you spar and noticed something about the way your spatial awareness worked, how you process 3 dimensions simultaneously rather than sequentially. 2 blades rewards that processing style in ways that the standard single blade forms don't. You practiced it until it was as natural as 1. Dooku uses Makashi. You know Makashi. You have studied every major form in the Temple archives with the specific thoroughness of someone who believes that the situation you have not prepared for will be the one that arrives. Makashi is the form designed for lightsaber dueling, economical and precise, deeply reliant on the opponent, providing the energy that the technique redirects into disadvantage. You do not provide the energy, you attack the foundation instead. The floor beneath his feet through the Force, vibrating the stone at frequencies that compromise stable footing, the structural pillars around him, introducing stress at their load-bearing points. The physical environment, which Makashi was not designed to account for, because Makashi was built for the duel and not the terrain. He adjusts faster than you expected. He is very good in the way that people who have spent decades refining a specific skill become very good. And his adjustment to the terrain attack is smooth and correct and buys him back the stability you removed. But the adjustment costs him attention, and attention in a duel is currency that doesn't replenish without cost. And you have been spending his attention since you entered the room. You hold him longer than he planned to be held. You see this recognition in his face. The recalibration of someone encountering a resistance that their estimate did not account for. This is Dooku's version of surprise, which is very controlled and very fast and still present in the specific compression of his attention around the new information. The column comes down because he concludes that misdirection is more efficient than continuing the engagement. A massive support column, force pushed from its mounting, aimed at the place where Obi-Wan and Anakin are. Not aimed at you because you are the active problem, and active problems are managed differently from the problems you are manufacturing. You drop both lightsabers. Both hands go to the column, and everything in your body and your connection to the Force applies to the single task of stopping something too large for the task, while keeping the people beneath it alive long enough for something to change. The weight is the specific weight of a thing designed to stand for a very long time, and therefore built with materials that take permanence seriously. Your bones have opinions about this weight. Your muscles have more opinions. You receive all of these opinions and note them for later, because later is when you can respond to them. And right now, there is no later. There is only this moment and the weight and the 2 people beneath it. Qui-Gon arrives. He arrives the way he always arrives, completely and without ceremony, and at the exact moment that the situation requires exactly what he brings to it. The column moves away from you and the people beneath it in a single clean gesture, and you stand in the space where it was holding yourself upright, through a combination of the Force and the specific stubbornness that 10 years of his training produced in you. You retrieve your lightsaber. You run. The solar sailor is lifting from the hangar floor when you reach the ramp. The gap between the ramp and the ground is the gap that the Force gives you, and the Force gives you enough. You take the ramp in a single motion, and you are up it and reaching for Dooku before the ramp has cleared the ground. His lightning hits you at the threshold. The Force lightning of a Sith does not carry the same sensation as the Force barrier in the Tusken camp. The barrier was pressure. This is current. It moves through you in a way that your nervous system registers as catastrophic, and your body's response is immediate and total, and the sand below the ramp receives you with the complete indifference of a desert that has been receiving things without comment since before anything on this planet was alive. You lie on the Geonosian sand and watch the solar sailor become small in the distance. The two suns above you are the wrong suns. The sand beneath you is the wrong sand. But the quality of lying flat on a desert floor after taking more than your body was designed to absorb is familiar in the specific way that experiences from childhood become familiar again in extremity. Qui-Gon reaches you before the clones do. He crouches in the sand, and his hands are already doing the force reading assessment before he is fully stopped. And when he finishes the assessment, his expression is the expression of someone who received information they were prepared for and is not pleased by it regardless. He says, "You followed him onto the ramp." You say, "Yes." He says, "You knew the likely outcome." You say, "I calculated that the window might be longer than it was." He says, "It was not longer." You say, "No." He helps you up. The process involves your body negotiating with your immediate future about what it is currently willing to do. And the negotiation is extended, and the terms are not entirely favorable, but an agreement is reached. Coruscant afterward, the Senate chamber with its 1,000 pods and its 1,000 senators, and the specific atmosphere of an institution that is doing something it will describe later as a decision made in good faith under difficult circumstances. Palpatine stands at the center of it and receives the emergency powers with the smoothness of someone receiving something they arrange for themselves in a process that appears to be external. You stand next to Qui-Gon and you watch. You have been watching Palpatine at intervals since the parade on Naboo 10 years ago. Each time he looks at you with the specific attention of someone monitoring a variable they did not install. The monitoring has been consistent across 10 years. And consistent monitoring of something tells you what the monitor thinks about the thing they are monitoring, which is that it is significant enough to keep monitoring. He looks at you now from across the chamber. You look back. You think about the fragment on the landing platform and where the trail from it leads. You think about the gaps in the star charts that led Obi-Wan to Kamino and the army that was there. You think about a separatist confederacy built across years in the outer systems, while the Senate focused on internal politics. You think about emergency powers voted through a single session without the resistance that emergency powers historically encounter in a functioning, deliberative body. Patterns are never random. This pattern has a center. The center is not Dooku. Dooku is a line in the pattern, a significant one, a planned and positioned one, but he is not the origin point. The origin point is somewhere much closer to where you are standing, and the fact that you cannot prove this yet is the thing that is going to cost you the most sleep in the years ahead. Qui-Gon's hand is on your shoulder, brief and present. You do not look away from Palpatine. He looks away first. Naboo again. The lake retreat. The garden with the evening light on it and the water behind, and the specific quiet of a place that has been arranged to be beautiful. Anakin makes his promise to Padme with the completeness of someone who does not do anything partially. You stand in the shadow near the door, in the position you have always occupied, which is close enough to witness and far enough to not intrude. And you watch your brother choose the thing that will cost him the most if it is ever used against him. Dorme stands near you. She came to prepare the ceremony. She has been near you at intervals throughout the Naboo assignment, with the consistent frequency of someone who is either personally interested or professionally tasked with observation. And you have been maintaining a gentle ambiguity about which of those things it is because the ambiguity is more comfortable than resolving it. She puts her hand briefly against yours in the shadow where the garden lights don't reach. Then she steps back into the professional distance of a handmaiden whose senator is getting married. You look at your brother through the ceremony. He has done the thing that transforms the person you most love into the person you most fear losing. And the galaxy moving toward war around him has been arranged by someone who understands exactly what he is and what can be done with what he is to use that transformation against him. You understand this now with the clarity of someone who has spent 2 years reading the pattern and has finally arrived at the shape of it. You made a promise in the sand outside a Tusken camp. You carry it the way you carry everything that matters, which is completely and without setting it down. The war has begun. Not the war that is being called a war, the one between the Republic and the Separatists with its clone armies and its droid armies and its political architecture of manufactured crisis. That war is real and will cost real things. But underneath it, in the space between what is visible and what is true, the other war is also beginning. The one that was always going to be about Anakin specifically, and about what can be made of a person if you find their weakness before they find their strength. You intend to be the thing standing between that war and your brother. You have been preparing for it since you were 9 years old, and you did not know it yet. Subscribe, because the Clone Wars begin now. And the Clone Wars are not the real war. The real war is quieter and closer, and it started the moment your brother said, "I do" in a garden on Naboo.